What's up guys, my name is Andy. Now that it's been a little bit of time since I installed those QA1 coilovers in the front and those QA1 double adjustable shocks in the rear, it's time to give you guys a review and let you know what I think about that setup. Have a little bit of time with it, so I've been driving around and trying to set stuff, get the settings figured out, and it takes a little bit of time to kind of figure that out, particularly if you guys are new to the compression and rebound settings, which like I am, trying to figure out where I like it. So let's go for a drive and we'll talk about what I think about this setup so far. Let's put some heat in the engine and we'll take my KruseBuilt t-shirt with us. You guys can get on KruseBuilt.com. But let's put some heat in the car. Let's go for a drive. So a recap of what I have on my car. What I purchased was a set of coilovers from QA1, double adjustable, and I installed those a couple weeks ago, and you guys probably saw that video on that. I set the spring height where I wanted. I had to adjust a little bit. In fact, I'm finding that the passenger side I probably need to come down another 1/8 of an inch or so, but I have noticed that in the last several weeks, the car has settled a little bit. I think settled about 1/8 of an inch or so, and that's normal, but just so what I'm saying is that if you guys get those coilovers and you set your height, you may have to readjust that, a little bit down the road because it's settled a little bit. So anyway, so that's fine. And then for the rear, I got the double adjustable, just the shocks. And again, I made a video on that. You guys probably saw that. And I didn't want to go with the coilovers, partly because I don't know what I'm going to do with the rear end. I'd like to upgrade to a 9-inch, but I don't know in terms of suspension what I want to do there. I don't have a problem with the leafs right now, and with that panhard bar that I have, it's kind of nice, having what I have. I don't have to dump a bunch of money to get a new setup that I'm not certain on yet on what I want to go with that setup. So now that I've had that in the car for a while, what are my thoughts? Right off the bat, I took the car out for a drive when I just put the coilovers in the front. Right off the bat, the front feels much more planted, much more controlled, less squishy. And that's not a surprise, particularly when you're upgrading to a more performance shock, but also because you can adjust the compression and the rebound. You can kind of set it where you want. And in this case, I set it for a firmer ride. And where I'm at right now, I don't know if I want to stay at this setting. I might want to go a pinch softer, and the reason why, I have really bad roads around here. And so it transfers every little crack in the road, every little bump in the road, it transfers it up through the steering and into my hands because the suspension is stiff enough that it's not absorbing that. Now it's a compromise. I wanted, stiffer suspension, sport suspension, and that's what you get when you put that on there. But I'm trying to find that balance, and absolute worst case is that I can find a setting that allows me when I'm just driving around is comfortable, particularly if the wife was with me or whatever. But then if I want to really do some spirited driving, I can crank the settings up a little bit, but I need to find out where those settings are. So that's going to take time, and a lot of you guys that are familiar with adjustable suspension, that the whole process just takes time to figure out where you want to be. So getting back to, hold on. Can't really tell in the camera what this feels like. So I've got a little patch of road here where it's fairly twisty, and just getting it on it, and as I continue to dial in this car, it's becoming it's becoming more what I wanted, right? I wanted something with a firmer ride, something that handles better, that turns sharp, but doesn't shake the feelings out of your teeth. It doesn't, you're not bouncing all over the place because it's so stiff. And as I continue to dial this in, I'm getting it right where I want, and I'm getting closer. So what settings do I have this car on? I started with 8 clicks on the compression and rebound for the front and 6 clicks for the rear. And right now everything feels good, but like I said, I think I want to soften it up a little bit in the front. But the rear, the problem is I need to adjust the settings to know if I find something that I like better. And when you find something, like right now it feels fine, so I don't want to change it, but there may be a better setting. So that's something that I need to do, and that just takes time to do that. And I'm gonna, spend some time in the next several weeks just kind of going through and testing settings and see where I come out. One thing I wanted to talk about though is what is compression and what is rebound. And I'm new to this stuff, and I didn't fully understand it. Yes, I understand it. It controls, the compression of the shock and how fast it goes back into normal, or whatever you want to call it. But what does that mean? What do the settings mean? And I had to wrap my head around it, because I think on the surface, if you're unfamiliar with it, you might just go, okay, well, it's just adjusting the compression. Well, what does the compression mean? On this particular setup that I have here, let's just stick with compression. So the higher the settings on the compression, the higher the resistance for the shock to compress. So why would you want that? Well, if it was 0 or no settings, you run the risk of bottoming the shock out, because it can compress too quickly and too much, right? And if you bottom it out, not only could you cause damage to the shocks, to your suspension, you'll definitely feel it, right? So why would you want that? Well, you want to be soft enough so that it's a comfortable ride, and then as you want to dial in the car, you dial in that compression. In this case, I go up in clicks. The higher the number, the firmer the compression, the higher the resistance for the shock to want to compress. So let's just go to the extreme, all the way to 18 clicks. You can still compress it, but it's going to take a lot to compress that shock, and that's not the kind of driving that I want to do with this car. I don't want to feel like I'm riding on a fixed suspension or something like that. So at the 8 that I'm at now, it's roughly the middle. It's firm. I can definitely tell that it's firmer than those KYB shocks that I had in here before, but it's not, jar your teeth out, your face, not that stiff. So then what is the rebound part? The rebound is the action of the shock to go back to normal, right? To in this case, to push down, right? If the compression is the shock push, going up, the rebound is the shock going back. The higher the adjustment, the slower the shock's going to be to returning to normal. If you set it at 0, it's going to return very quickly, so quickly that it may throw off, your suspension and how the car handles, and you may not be ready for that. So you want some, a rebound adjustment so that it doesn't go back to normal really, really fast, but you don't want it all the way cranked up to where it's so slow that it's almost staying compressed, and now you're essentially riding, the car would be low, and you'll be riding on the bottom of that shock, and you don't want to do that. So finding that balance in the adjustments of rebound, the higher the number, the slower it returns back to normal. So if I was given the choice to buy these again, would I do that? Absolutely. I talked about in the videos, first off, the customer service at QA1 was just top shelf. Very helpful. I called up, talked to Steve, explained to him what I wanted and what my goals were and what I had, and he knew exactly what I needed, and he says, look, this is where you want to start. He gave me some pointers. That kind of customer service is hard to come by these days. And then on top of that, I get the adjustability that I want. I want to dial this car in and make it my own, right? Make it exactly how I want. And those KYB shocks that I had just couldn't do it. I wish I would have bought these to begin with. There was nothing wrong with those KYB shocks that I had. They did the job. They're great for, they were much better than what was on the car, but there's no real performance in them. And that's fine, that's what they are. And a lot of you guys don't look for that. You just want to drive your car. Perfect, get those KYBs and save some money. But if you want to dial in your suspension like I do, something like these QA1 shocks are exactly where I wanted to be, and I got what I wanted. So yes, I would buy them again. And I just wish I would have bought them to begin with. You know, another thing that that I think that helps with my setup is that I've got that panhard bar in the back, and that keeps that axle centered as I'm going through these tight corners. And that's just something that, you know, the best shocks aren't going to keep that axle centered. You got to have something to keep it in there, whether it's a Watts link or a panhard bar or a 4-link, if you guys have that set up, something to keep that axle in the middle. That's a major player in how my suspension feels and how it reacts and what it does when I want it to do it. So I think having that is important. I'm gonna get in trouble. So what's next for my suspension? I think the first thing is I got to dial this suspension in. I got to figure out where I'm at, what I need to do to dial those things in and get that stuff set up. And I think from there, I need to do things like the upper and lower control arms. I just need to replace those. Those are tired stock, you know, they're 55, whatever years old. The bushings are tired on them. Something, you know, an upgraded set. Just a OEM set would make probably a big difference in what I have, but I'm gonna look at my options out there and see what I can get. But if you guys have some, you know, suggestions on what you guys bought, there's a couple of brands that I've been eyeballing, but you know, I haven't made up my mind yet. So I could be persuaded. Oh, this car is so much fun to drive. Sometimes I wish you guys could come with me so you could kind of hear and feel all of the changes. Well, you guys weren't there at the beginning when this car was what I got, you know, when I bought it, but this car has changed so much and it is such a blast to drive, to the point where I'm electing to maybe be a little not as smart when I'm driving, just with, you know, some of the corners and the speed. So that's probably going to bite me and get me in trouble. But anyways, so guys, again, there's a review on my QA1 suspension. Very happy with it. This is something that, again, I should have bought to begin with. I'm here now. I'm happy with it. I'm anxious to dial it in, and I want to drive the car some more. So anyways, guys, if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you subscribe, I appreciate it because it helps my channel out. And we'll see you in the next one.